Today, I just want to show you really the difference between an efficient volley and an inefficient volley, which will lead us to what a layback is. And then we'll also talk about how you can make your volley a little bit more efficient, get your ball going a little more towards your target, and reduce the amount of calculations that you have to make. Before we proceed, I'll give you the two caveats. And the caveats are, if you have an inefficient stroke and you can hit your ball to your intended target 10 times out of 10 under score pressure and time pressure, then I'm not saying anything to you. I ain't saying jack. And then the other part of it is, whenever I show footage of myself playing or hitting a stroke, I just let players know that it's purely a technical demonstration. I don't claim to have the best strokes in the world, and that's something I want to get across to anyone that might be watching. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look. What is an efficient volley? So really, efficiency in stroke production is the least amount of moving parts, and also one of the big things is, on all strokes except the serve and the overhead, you want your strings to face the target for a long period of time. If the ball will always go where the strings are facing, you want your strings facing the target for a long period of time. So let's go ahead and we'll just take a look at the players in front of us. So the player on the left, she has a pretty inefficient volley in that her strings don't face the target for long enough. Okay, so look at the angle of her racket. And really, the way I explain it to players and students is, look at how much work your brain has to do to get the racket face close to vertical at contact, okay? On the volley, the racket face is close to vertical. That's, I think, a misconception that people have, is that you have a racket face that's open. I've heard things like 45 degrees open, and really you're going to send the ball into the back fence if you're volleying that way, or you have to volley so slow. But watch what happens here. So it might be that the player on the left can make that timing 10 times out of 10 when a coach is feeding her balls, or she's just having a hit with her friend. But think about having to make that timing again and again, whether it's 3-all, 15-40, and you're trying to save a break point by sticking a volley into the forehand side of your opponent because he or she, they might be on the backhand side. Which volley technique would you rather have? If you have a big layback, it just requires so many more calculations to get the racket face vertical at the hit. Okay? So go ahead and film yourself from the side. If you've been having issues with your backhand volley, pay attention. How far back does your racket go, and where do the strings face? Are they roughly facing towards the target at all times, or no? And really, it's a twofold problem in that if you learn to use your body's momentum through the ball, then you don't have to lay your racket back to generate power. Many players who are either, who probably learned the one-handed backhand volley a little too early in their lives, where they weren't strong enough to really learn it with good technique, have a layback this way, because the brain is pretty powerful. You learn to find power in different ways, and the way the player found it on the left is to lay her racket back, so she has a little bit of a run up to get the racket moving fast at the contact. But if you watch here, and again, it's a technical demonstration, my power is coming through the step into contact. Okay, so two sources of power on the volley are the speed of the incoming ball and the body's momentum through the ball. So if you notice on the right here, I am stepping through contact. And look at where my racket tip is facing. It's still facing off this way, while the player here has basically folded across across her body. And that's, the layback, and usually ends up folding across the body. Okay, so now let's take a look at really what you can do to make your stroke more efficient. Okay, let's set this up. All right, so one of the ways that you can go out and practice is to turn and set and then step and push. Okay, so I'll explain what that means. From ready position, you want to make a turn, and I want you to pay attention to a few things here. The first one is, look at where my belly button is facing. Okay, it's almost facing to the side fence. You want it facing the side fence, and the way to achieve that is you want your left toe to turn if you're right-handed, so that the knee can turn, so that the hip can turn. Then the shoulders can turn. If you can't turn the left toe, you're going to struggle to really get into this position. Notice how my left arm is acting as a brace to set the racket up like a wall to the ball. So, we spoke about this, the ball will always go where the strings are facing. Imagine I'm having a bad day, things aren't really working that well. If I've trained myself to point my strings to the target for a long period of time, my timing doesn't have to be as immaculate. I can be having a bad day where I didn't get enough sleep, something happened where I'm not feeling that great. And regardless of that, if I have efficient technique and my strings face the target for a long period of time on the volley, then that just means I can get the ball to the target more consistently. Look, if I hit here, yeah, it might go out, but really from this entire area here, if I were to contact anywhere here, the ball would roughly go into the court, which is really what a hitting zone is, which is what a player with a layback would struggle to achieve. Okay, so just to summarize a few things that we spoke about today, there is no right or wrong way to hit. If you can get 10 out of 10 to a target, I'm not going to say anything to you. However, hopefully we can agree on what's efficient and inefficient. And on a backhand volley, I see many players have a layback where the strings will just face straight up to the sky, and they'll try to make a timing into the contact. So how do you fix that? Is you can learn to set up this way, and then set up a ball machine or have a partner coach feed you, and all you're trying to do is step and push through the contact. And notice that my right foot is in the air, so that shows me that I am transferring forward during the contact, right? I'm using a momentum source of power. Notice how my head is over the leading foot. When I finish the stroke, the head is the heaviest part of your body. And notice also how the tip of my racket is still facing off to the left. And you can actually put in body balance here at the end, meaning you can ask your friend, coach, partner, whatever, to feed you, and then you can do a hold for 2 or 3 seconds in this position to start training yourself to use a momentum source of power and check that your racket has ended up in the right position. So there you go, guys. Hope you got some value out of it. Check out my stroke analysis if you want help improving your stroke, and my live private lessons. All the information is in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all soon.